Alright, last night I got to see They Will Kill You, the new action comedy, dark humor, horror movie, gore fest, I guess. And first, I gotta say, in the, walking into this movie, I immediately have to compare this to last week's movie, which was Ready or Not 2. Because Ready or Not 2 and this movie have remarkably similar plots, and we almost have like a Armageddon, Deep Impact, or Bugs Life and Ants type situation here, where these two movies releasing a week apart from each other and being so similar, you can't help but walk into both of them thinking about the other one. And in fact, I'd be fascinated to go rewatch Ready or Not 2 just after I've seen this one, because I gotta compare notes now. Like, this is basically an experiment if you gave two different directors the exact same script and just see what they come out with. And that's kind of what it feels like. But yeah, basically, having said all that, now you know what the plot is. A woman is alone in a house, and she's trying to save her sister from a group of devil-worshipping cult members, and it results in a bunch of dark humor, action, comedy, lots of blood everywhere, but it tries to keep it as like an edgy, like kind of funny, jokey way, right? And I will say, in some ways, this movie succeeds where Ready or Not failed, and in other ways, vice versa, right? So it'd be kind of fascinating. It's like I almost want to get maybe the creators of the two movies together and like, hey, what if you guys just work together to make something? Because you're clearly trying to hit the same tone, you're trying to hit the same exact like comedy beats as each other. One of you, this movie specifically, goes more over the top than the other one. Like, this one has that, I would call it Tarantino-esque, Kurosawa style, like exaggerated gore, right? It's like a limb gets chopped off and it just sprays like gallons and gallons of blood, like cartoonishly so. In fact, there are some moments in here that I would go as far as saying these are like Sam Raimi moments, because I guess maybe a slight spoiler, but there's an eyeball at one point. There's a sequence where an eyeball is still alive and it's following the protagonist, and so the eyeball just kind of flips around on the floor following the protagonist, trying to see what she's doing. And so it's like a very Sam Raimi idea of like this living eye that's just following around. Like, it's really gross, but it's hilarious watching this thing like just go down a hallway. Like, it's I don't know, it's goofy, but it's also like kind of gross looking, and that's like a very Sam Raimi thing to do. But yeah, this movie is fascinating. It does feel like there were some comedy beats that they didn't quite hit as well. I think definitely the first half of the movie is stronger than the second half. But overall, I had a pretty good time with this one. It felt like a video game. That's the other thing. Like, this movie felt like you're going from room to room in a video game, and every room has something different. Some of them are long hallways where you got to take out a whole group of people. Some of them are darkened rooms. Some of them you're going through the crawl spaces. You're trying to hide and get away from things. It felt very energetic. It felt like you're constantly moving, and you're just trapped in this one building for pretty much the entirety of the movie, and that's pretty cool. And like I said, the action, I think they did much better than Ready or Not. Like, the choreography, like the protagonist here can fight, and it's actually really entertaining watching like these cult members who, I guess you would imagine are experienced with all these weapons, but she's just like somehow, the explanation is that she went to prison, but somehow she knows how to use all these swords and axes, and just like she's an expert fighter with all of this weaponry. And it's actually, and you don't question it because they put you in this reality where the violence is just so over the top and crazy that you don't really, like, you're not sitting there thinking like, well, why would she know how to do that? You just go with it. You accept it. It's a Kill Bill type of thing, I mean, I guess Kill Bill had training, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just so over the top that you don't even really think about that kind of stuff. You're just like, yeah, everyone in this movie is like an expert fighter with all these weapons, and it's pretty cool. There is something else that it is a spoiler, so I'll mention it later, that they do in this movie that I do think they should have done in Ready or Not. I would have added an extra interesting element to that one, but overall, pretty good time. it's a pretty good time, you know. What the actual box office for this movie looks like, but I will say, you know, when it hits streaming or as soon as you can, especially if you enjoyed Ready or Not, I would recommend watching this one, or vice versa. If you watch this one and you haven't seen Ready or Not, go watch that one, because it's kind of fascinating to compare these two and see the strengths and weaknesses of both. Okay, now I'm going to get into a little bit of spoilers, just like a small spoiler section here, because this is the one element that I was thinking, like, this kind of puts this above Ready or Not in this one specific way. Okay, here we go. Spoilers. The villains in this movie have regeneration powers. Like, you know, like, yeah, like X-Men, Wolverine style regeneration. So their heads get chopped off, their legs get chopped off, and they start to regrow, or they can just grab them and reattach them in this really gross looking way. And that kind of lets the violence stay as like this over-the-top cartoony style thing, because our protagonist can literally chop these people into pieces and then they'll come back later, you know? So that kind of even more so adds to the video game feel of this whole thing. And, you know, it just being explained as like, oh yeah, they made a deal with the devil, they're immortal, therefore they can regenerate. Like, that is something I feel like, oh, Ready or Not probably should have done something like that, like let their bad guys have some kind of powers or something, because, like, yeah, they made a deal with the devil. Like, in that movie it was more like political power, I guess, or just like worldly power. This one, it's like, oh no, they are like immortal, they're Wolverines, you know. So I don't know, I thought that was a pretty cool element, especially given how over the top the violence is, that that was just a really brilliant move for this one. But yeah, anyways, They Will Kill You. Let me know if you guys have seen it, what you think about it, what your comparisons to Ready or Not are. You know, again, it's just kind of fascinating that these two movies came out a week apart from each other, but yeah, I think it's a pretty cool time, especially if you watch both and you're just thinking in your head like, okay, who did it better, which moment was better, which of these comedy beats worked better. And yeah, let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.